I can do anything I want with my life, so might as well dream big and do what I want to do. And so I started auditioning while I was working full-time as a software engineer. The Dorian Gray audition was a block away. I coded in the morning, did the audition in the afternoon, and then 5 auditions later, ended up getting the role, which was super wild.
Was there like a moment that you knew you had to quit tech and fully commit to acting?
Booking something on Broadway is so crazy, and I'm so honored, but it also was like, no way. I have to make sure that this is happening before I quit my job. And it's hard to figure out your passion. My mom gave me great advice. It's easier to find out what you don't like to do. So first, find out what you don't like to do, then find out what do you do naturally. Something that I live by is I do a thing a day. Could be as small as an email, could be as big as going to an audition, could be prepping lines, could be filming something for social media. And I think that's helped me maintain like a steady feeling of work, whether or not I'm making money from it.
What's the next big scary dream that you haven't said out aloud yet?
Ooh, this is a good question.
Dara Woo, welcome to the Ginni Show. Very excited to have you here.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a very big honor. Thanks for having me.
I want to kind of dive into some fascinating facts I learned about you. You were building platforms for 200,000 Lyft drivers, and then you moved to making the Picture of Dorian Gray one of Broadway's most dazzling multimedia experiences. How do you go from ride sharing to Broadway magnificence?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, my background is a little bit crazy. It was super wild. You know, I'm from the Silicon Valley and my parents are executive tech recruiters. So my entire life is very tech focused. So yeah, I went to college. I went to University of Michigan for computer science. Afterwards, I worked as a software engineer. And I think when you grow up in the Silicon Valley, you don't really know to dream outside of the Silicon Valley. So yeah, basically for me, it was just sort of like I went to college and I was like living in the Midwest and I was like, I can do anything I want with my life. So might as well dream big and do what I want to do. And so I started auditioning while I was working full-time as a software engineer. The Dorian Gray audition was a block away from the Lyft office, which is the company I was working at. And I was like, sure, I'll stop on by during my lunch break. Coded in the morning, did the audition in the afternoon, and then, 5 auditions later, ended up getting the role, which was super wild.
I was going to ask you what your morning routine was, but your daily routine just sounds completely fascinating. Coding, auditioning, back to coding. That would have been wild. What did you have to tell like your bosses at your companies when you were kind of doing a side hustle of, tech stuff? You were working full time and then doing the creative stuff. What did you have to tell your bosses?
You know what? I'm very lucky. I was actually in kind of a perfect situation where I was the only person on my team living in New York. So everybody else was living in California. So that means I could do auditions in the morning and then come back. And by the time it's like, even if I started work at 1, that's what, I don't know, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Software engineers aren't starting work until 10:30 a.m. So I really didn't think it was an issue because yeah, I mean, the good news with software engineering is I had max 2 meetings a day. And it was just sort of like, as long as you can get the code done, you can code at whatever time you want. And actually, that's been something I've been thinking about a lot because it's funny because you ask about my morning routine, but I'm actually such a night owl. Like I wake up at like 10 a.m. on the early side and I'll go to bed at like 3 in the morning because I did majority of my coding like literally after 10 p.m. I just feel most creative and smart in that hour.
I think some people are kind of hooked on morning routines because a lot of entrepreneurs do push like the 5 a.m. club and waking up in a certain window, but it's really not about necessarily what time that you wake up or what time that you go to bed. It's how you can optimize that productivity for when you wake up and when you go about your day. So that's really curious that you stay up till 3 a.m.
Yeah, you know what? From the hours of like noon to like dinner time, I'm not doing much. My brain is not working. But after dinner time, I'm like scheduling out 50 emails and, just that's when I'm doing all my work. So
I want to keep asking you about your journey in tech as well. Like you're working at Lyft, you were interning at EA and Salesforce, and then you were quietly auditioning for shows. What would you say in that moment when you were kind of coding and you had the full-time job, while you're trying to audition for roles, what would you say that you thought about was the cost of staying on a safe path? Did you think about, okay, this is stability, this is creative? Did you have conversations like that with yourself?
You know what? Do it all the time and I still do it now. Because it's not even that I think about tech in like a, maybe this is like not a great thing to say. It's not even that I think of it in a stability sense. I think of it as in, I mean, I guess there is stability, but I just think about it as in like, there's a lot of really cool things happening right now. It's actually, well, controversial with like AI, because I know it affects Hollywood very negatively. But like, on the tech side of things, software engineers aren't thinking about like the impacts of AI on Hollywood. But so as a software engineer, I'm like, AI is really cool. You can get in some cool companies and make a lot of, this is the time to make a lot of money if you're working in tech. So I do think about that, honestly. And it's just like to work on some cool things with smart people doing new, innovative stuff is like kind of, I don't know. That is really exciting for me. But I think for me, it's just like I did coding. Even though I'm in my 20s, I've been coding for like 10 years at this point. I know what that life looks like. It's a great life. I don't think negatively about it at all. But I think for me, it was just like, I wanted to challenge myself in a way that made me feel brave. Like, I think different people find different challenges exciting. So, like, I think an engineer would find, like, how do I break this? How do I break this? Or how do I build this? Those are not questions that excite me really. Like for me, it was more like, oh my gosh, I'm really scared to go in front of 1,000 people and like you know, do something like that to me. I feel like, even if I stayed in tech, something in the more like public speaking realm would fit me better. But yeah, I think I just wanted to like, for me, I just wanted to really stay true to who I think I am and pursue something that I thought I wasn't going to regret when I'm older.
Was there like a moment that you knew you had to quit tech and fully commit to acting?
It was actually a very easy decision. I got the offer for Dorian Gray and I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing. And I actually didn't even want to quit my job until I had like gotten to set for rehearsal for Dorian Gray because I was like, booking something on Broadway is so crazy and I'm so honored, but it also was like no way. So I was like, I have to make sure that this is happening before I quit my job. So yeah, it was actually a super easy decision. I got the offer. I went on set. I was like, okay, this is awesome. Quit my job, put in my 2 weeks. It was a very recent decision. It happened like, less than 6 months ago.
That's amazing. So there was no like dramatic breakdown or like drums in the background. It was like, hey, I got it, 2 weeks notice, and here we are having this conversation. Were you prepared for the media part of it? Like, I'm curious to know, like, you landed this role on Broadway, but it obviously challenges you. Performing on TV is different from performing on stage. You actually have the live feedback and the atmosphere and the reaction. Like, how do you kind of keep your, I guess, sensitivities and egos in check when you are performing out there? Because it's very different from coding remotely, right? To getting virtual feedback and then going in front of an audience and being, I guess, you're given live feedback in real time. So what was that experience like for you?
I honestly feel like one of the biggest things I learned was just what it means to do 8 shows a week. I ended up doing 110 shows with Dorian Gray. And I don't think I realized, like, before you do that, you don't realize, like, what that really entails. So, like, for instance, I went on another podcast and I was speaking and I was, like, losing my voice during the podcast. And I was like just trying to, like me with my water right now, I'm just like trying to chug water. I ended up losing my voice for over 2 weeks after going on that podcast, like completely. Like I couldn't even like whisper. It was like completely gone. My voice was gone and I had like a cough. And the thing is like with Dorian Gray, it's like, if I cough, I'm coughing in front of 1,000 people. So I think like there was like, and if I have a cough like it honestly wasn't that bad of a sickness. Like if I was working not on a stage, I think I would have been like, oh, it's just like a little pesky cough. But when you're coughing in front of 1,000 people, I mean, I think I cried on stage at least 3 times, like literally tears shedding down my face because I'm like trying so hard not to cough in front of 1,000 people. And then I'm running off stage to do like a cough. And it's just like, that was like, honestly, there was no ego because when you're coughing in front of 1,000 people, you just feel ashamed. So yeah, I think that was kind of interesting. But I did have a few friends who came to the shows where I coughed, and they're like, you didn't even see anything because there's so much happening on the stage. But I guess like when you're living in it in the moment, you're like,
Yeah, no, I can imagine that's quite nerve wracking. Speaking of the stage, because there's so much going on, like there's 5 camera operators live on stage, something that's practically never been done before. What was the biggest challenge of working live with projections and a solo actor playing 26 characters? So there's like a lot of things happening, right? So, and it's different. So walk me through that experience.
I'll just say there was something like, I forget if the number is 200 or 300. It was either 200 or 300 spike marks. And a spike mark is like an area that it's like a specific location on the stage you hit. It's usually marked with a piece of tape. And so we're basically running around for 2 hours trying to hit these 200 to 300 precise spike marks. And some of the camera shots are like millimeters specific, like, especially because we have like overlays with like, you know, Sarah talking to a different version of Sarah. So like if things are like even 2 centimeters off, the shot looks like really off. So yeah, I think just like, maintaining that precision over 110 shows, 111 shows was very difficult. And the live aspect is just like, it could be something as simple as like I trip over the air and then like the camera shot looks weird. So yeah, I think that was really tough. It was just like keeping that precision.
I haven't seen the show yet, but I heard that it has no intermission. And is it true that it also has 100 million, like it says 100 moving pieces, but because someone is playing 26 characters, like we said, you're running around for 2 hours, so you have no break. So you're coughing, you're sweating, you're trying to find this mark in the dark. You're trying not to be up. That's a lot of things to manage. Like that's a lot of work, girl.
Yeah, it was crazy. And actually, now that you talk about it, it's like something as little as like, I know that we had like, I don't know if you would call it like an AC air conditioning gate, but like basically like we were performing, the show ended end of June, which means that was like 100 degrees or something in New York City. So we needed like AC on blast, but it's like, Lord Henry, one of the characters, is smoking a cig. Okay, well then all the smoke looks off because of the AC. Or even for me, it's like you stand in a specific area of the stage, the AC is going down my throat a weird way. I want to cough. So, there's just like everything was like it was like the most precise thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Precising. I love that. We should hashtag that, Dara. That's like a thing.
Yeah.
Precising. Love it. I wonder, like, I've come across a few people in my lifetime, my very short lifetime, of people who are kind of working a 9 to 5 job and they want to pursue a creative outlet, especially like people who want to act. What's one tiny action that they can take this week or today to start shifting their path, drawing from personal experiences?
I think, COVID was obviously terrible, and a really hard time. For me personally, though, it was a time for me to reflect on what I wanted in life. Because for me, it hit when I was like a junior or senior in college. I can't remember. I mean, that's kind of a point in your life where you're like about to graduate. You're like, what do I do with my life? And it was I felt like I kind of had this slingshot effect where it's like COVID like pulled me back and held me back. And I did a lot of reflection. I was reading a lot of like specifically autobiographies on like famous successful people and entrepreneurs and like what they did with their lives. And I was like, well, what do I want to do with mine? And so I took like, 6 to 8 months to really just like research what I think I'd like to do. And it's hard to figure out your passion. I think the easiest way my mom gave me great advice and she's like, it's easier to find out what you don't like to do. So first find out what you don't like to do, then find out what do you do naturally. So like when it is 9 p.m. and you can either decide to do TV or something else, well, what's the something else that you're doing? If you're researching, I don't know, healthy foods, maybe that's something you want to look into. For me, I was always researching like movies and TV, and that to me was a signal that that was an area for me to go into. So, yeah, I would say like find out what you do naturally, take the time to reflect, make some sort of game plan. If you have, if you just want like if you don't want to transition your life, just enjoy it. Do it however you want. But if you were like me and you like, I want to change my life and I want to do this big transition, like make sure you take the time to really, I didn't just like stumble into this. This was like years of research and planning. And then also like something that I live by is I do a thing a day. Could be as small as an email, could be as big as going to an audition, could be, prepping lines, could be filming something for social media. Like I do one thing a day and I have done it for like the last like 5 years for this career. And I think that's helped me maintain like a steady feeling of work, whether or not I'm making money from it.
That's amazing. The one thing that you do a day. So is it like, is it, can it be anything, or is it like strategic? It's like I'm sending an email to further my career, or is there an intention behind it? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very intentional. So like for me, like, okay, like I think a good example right now is like I would love to get into writing or producing or just like being able to create my own projects right now. I do not have the time or the bandwidth to do that. So I'm not even going to spend any time right now putting effort into that quite yet, right? Maybe that's something I can start doing, hopefully in soon, but like right now my intention is like let me just get really good at acting. So my intention there is like acting class a day, filming myself tapes, filming things for TikTok, making sure my reels up to date. Like I think there is a level of intentionality because I don't want to be spread too thin, because I do know I do a lot of things within tech and acting and everything. So it's like let me just get really good at acting. You can't be an NBA player if you're only half good at basketball. Right now, it's just like get good at my craft and make sure I'm producing consistent, good acting work.
A famous entrepreneur, a highly successful entrepreneur, did say most successful people don't do more things, they do fewer things. Because if you're doing too many things, like what you said, you can't be great at everything. You'll be spreading yourself thin in certain areas. So that's actually a really important skill that you have there, Dara, that skill of focus. Because sometimes people can't focus on the one thing. They want the next shiny thing here and the next shiny thing there. So you're like, I'm just going to do this thing. That dream, I still have it. That doesn't change, but I will get to it after this is complete. So that's a really high level of intentionality that you have there. I'm curious also, Dara, like you're also passionate about telling stories that, center complex Asian American women. Now, I'm married to a lovely Asian American woman as well. So I love that you're passionate about that. What story do you feel isn't being told enough on stage and screen?
Ooh, this is a good question. Maybe I'm gonna regret saying this. I don't know, it's just like the first thing that came to my brain. Um, you know, I am a third or fourth generation Asian American. Like my grandparents were born in the States. My parents don't speak, I'm half Japanese and Chinese. My parents don't speak either language. I don't speak either language. I don't personally identify with like maybe the first generation immigrant story that if there's no Asian American, there's literally no Asian Americans in Hollywood. And if there are, I feel like the fact that they're Asian has to be like the central plot of like the movie, or like the fact that they're like an immigrant, which is great. Personally, for me, I don't know if I really identify with that. Like Min Ho in, I think his name was Min Ho, in Maze Runner, he was just Asian and he was just treated like a human. I don't feel like they like made him like sort of they didn't like alienate him or like bring up the fact he was Asian. I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, obviously we need a good balance of stories that like show like, hey, this is the Asian American experience that most people go through. But I think also just having like Asian Americans in TV shows that like it's not a big deal that they're Asian American. They're just your buddy, they can just be your friend. They don't have to be there for some weird diversity reason. I think that would probably be that's the kind of characters I would want to play. Is just like she happens to be Asian, but it's like it's not to I don't know. Yeah, push forward any weird agenda.
No, that's a great answer. I think because I kind of feel that the same thing about queer characters. Like years ago, it's like it's all about coming out, and we had to have and now it's just like, oh, there's two women, they have a child. Like it's not explicitly stated. So I totally hear you on that and can relate to you in that. I'm curious what your take on Crazy Rich Asians was when it first came out.
I loved Crazy Rich Asians.
I thought it was great.
I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I liked how it took away it stripped away a lot of the stereotypical things that Asians are tied to. And I think that was a really lovely way of being open to seeing that. What was your take on it, Dara?
I will just say Step Up to the Streets is one of my favorite movies, directed by John M. Chu. Also, Crazy Rich Asians was directed by John M. Chu. And after watching that movie, I have no port ties to Singapore, but I was so like enthralled with the movie. Like I like applied to study abroad in Singapore, and I actually got in, and I didn't go because I was like, I don't know, trying to be a good coder, but like, or trying to do my coding classes, but like, yeah, like I was like obsessed with that movie. I'm actually wondering, I feel like that and La La Land were kind of two movies that made me go, I really want to dive into acting. But yeah, like in terms of like the Asian American stance, like yes, the fact they're Asian is a big point of the movie, but like I didn't feel like it leaned into any weird stereotypes. And you had so many Asian characters that were filling different personalities and careers and types. I don't know. I loved it.
What was it about the movie in particular? You're like, hey, I really want to get into acting. There's always that one, or in your case, two movies, but what was it in that particular movie?
I don't know. It must be the fact it was like a movie full of Asian Americans who were not portrayed like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I love that movie. Amazing movie. I don't identify with that movie as much because it is more of a story about a first generation immigrant versus Crazy Rich Asians. Yes, they're first gen immigrants maybe, but it feels like a little bit more I think because Singapore speaks English, like it feels a little bit more American, I guess, which I can relate to more. So yeah, I think maybe just like the non-stereotypical Asian characters made me go like, oh my God, like I could have auditioned for this.
Which character would you have auditioned for and liked to have played on Crazy Rich Asians?
Oh gosh. You know what? There's either two. Either the girl who gets married and she has the fancy wedding, just because like to be an actor in a high budget production, getting married to a handsome man. Sure,
Yeah.
Constance Wu is good too, because then she gets to play like the economics professor,
Yeah.
but the fancy wedding.
Yeah. Yeah. The really cool thing about it is I've never seen anybody walk down the aisle to like water like that elegantly too. Like I would drown or slip or fall or something. Like it would not be sexy, but she just made it look so elegant and beautiful.
They get to eat the hawker stand food. She's walking down the water, the lily pads, the pianist. I was like, oh my gosh, they're on the yacht in the Marina Bay Sands. I actually forced my family. We took a family vacation to Singapore, and I was like, we need to go to the Marina Bay Sands. Like, I need to live out my Crazy Rich Asians dream.
That's awesome. What did you kind of reenact anything up there? Were you like, wow, this is it?
You know what? I was like, oh, if I was a billionaire, we stayed the night and then we ate at like the buffet the next morning. And I think that was like probably like a, I don't know, top 5 moment of my life.
That is amazing. I'm staying on this topic of Asian American women or Asian women representation in Broadway. Do you think that it's still an industry that underrepresents Asian women in leading roles? What keeps you motivated about that if it does? And what needs to change if anything does?
Hollywood in general, I mean, maybe Broadway isn't under that umbrella, but you know, acting in general, always having a more diverse cast, more diverse leads, not just like, you know, a lead that looks like all the other leads and then like the side characters filling in the patches. Yeah, I think like always having more diverse characters is an amazing thing. I will say though, I was invited to AAHNPI, so Asian Americans, Hawaiian Natives, and Pacific Islanders. I was invited to one of their events that they hosted. So if you work on Broadway in any sense, like any of the actors, dressers, hair and makeup, you know, musicians, you were invited to this event. That was like the coolest thing I'd ever been to. You know, Lea Salonga was there. You know, like a lot of like of the famous casts from like Oh Mary, Maybe Happy Ending, they were there, and I was just like, ah. So yeah, obviously we need more diversity in any type of role as long as it's not stereotypical and doesn't like, you know, hurt the community in general. But I will say like being invited to that event was just such a cool thing. That was amazing.
Dara, thanks so much for sharing that. I have a question for you now that you are like you are really leaning more into acting and that creativity, and that's your focus at the moment, right? You're like, you want to make sure your reels are updated, your self-tapes are great. I know for actors during pilot season, there is this huge emotional roller coaster they go through, not just pilot season, but just when they're auditioning, right? You're like preparing for this audition, like you put a lot of energy into it. When things don't go your way, how do you ground yourself when that doubt creeps in, when, you know, you're rejected time and time again? How do you ground yourself and how do you keep yourself positive and how do you keep going, really?
Eh, I feel
That'd be
like,
a great
you know,
reel right there, your reaction.
oh my God, this is a good question.
Yeah.
I think there's two things. So the first thing, and my therapist would be angry at me for saying this, but it's just like diversify your life, you know, like you need things in your life. You can't be like Rachel Berry in Glee. You only focus on one thing because if it doesn't go your way, you're going to be really upset. Like I almost needed to do multiple things just for my own mental health and sanity and just like in terms of multiple income streams, but also in terms of like with the Dorian Gray audition. I did the audition, was like, oh my God, I hope I get that. And then I walked across the street to my office and then like had to forget it all. So it's just like it was really helpful for me to have a segmented like a I was able to compartmentalize my auditions because I had other things to rely on, I think. And then, similarly, I would just say like I'm one of those rare, I don't know if I'm a rare, I don't know. Maybe that hypes me up too much. Gosh, look at me using another thing my parents always said. My dad's a fisherman. And he likes executive recruiting because he would always say like you have multiple lines in the lake and you're waiting for one to bite. I think of acting the same way. I don't even know like even with software engineering, I liked interviewing probably way too much. I think just like the excitement of like you never know one day if you're going to wake up and have a life-changing email. And having multiple lines, if three of the lines don't bite, that's okay. Like you still have lines in the lake because if you have no lines in the lake, you're not getting any bites. But at least if you have a few, there is a chance something will happen. Maybe that makes you sound like a gambler, but yeah. I think I
It
think
sounds makes you sound strategic and very kind of it's true
thanks.
because you're not putting all of your eggs or all of your fishing rods into the one bait, like you're diversifying. And I think that is really important too, because when you do get consumed in one path or one thing, it can be quite unhealthy, mental health wise too. Like, have you experienced that before? Have you just is your father always giving you wise advice and you're like, I got it?
Yeah, and you know what? I even not even fishing lines within different areas of my life, even fishing lines within acting. Like I like to, like audition for three things, send three emails. That's six fishing lines. And so it can get tough when like no fishes are biting, no fishies are biting. But yeah, I think it's this path has been manageable because I am just like 50 rejections, but maybe one will bite. I have a spreadsheet of all my auditions, and it's like what the audition was, what the role was, where it would film, and who the director is, who the casting director is. I can see my bite rate, I guess, another fishing analogy, but that's also helpful because if I'm like, I feel like I haven't gotten anything in a while. I look at that spreadsheet and I'm like, oh, actually, I did get something X times ago. Or like, oh, it hasn't happened in a while, but I think it'll happen soon, just based on historical data.
Is that the software engineer in you, like looking at data and being like, okay, like what's the strike rate here? Is it just
Bro,
like,
it's totally the type A coming out.
yeah,
Like,
it's very rare for a type A to be a creative, right? Like to the extent of being on Broadway or TV, but the type A is coming out with the spreadsheets.
yeah.
That's hilarious. You have fishing rods out there in whatever career or interest that you have at the time. You know, you've been the mentee, the tech lead, and now a Broadway performer. Which version of you has been the hardest to embody and why?
Definitely software engineering. I can talk about it lightly now, and I'm like, oh my God, I love it. I love tech, but like it was really hard for me to get into software engineering. You ask about like, like the rejection rate of acting. I'm almost not overconfident, but like I just have like I don't really have any doubt. But with software engineering, I had so much doubt about myself. And like, I think it's because I grew up in Cupertino, California, which is like the headquarters of Apple. So I think it's like, 90% of my high school went to a 4-year university. I'm sure they all went into tech or finance. Very smart school, even though it was, public school, very smart school, very highly academic. I think the average ACT score out of 36 was like a 33 at my high school out of, I don't know, 1,600 kids, which is crazy. Like, it was highly academic. Me and all my friends are still traumatized from it. And I think because I grew up in such an intense environment, it was like I really like, I had imposter syndrome because I knew what good looked like. And I think that's the thing. It's like, it's not like I was comparing myself to some nebulous figure in my head. It was more like, oh, shoot, like X, Y, and Z are really good. Like, why would I pursue this if I'm not as good as X, Y, and Z? I don't know if I've ever felt insecure about myself ever in my life, minus me trying to get into software engineering and tech. It was really hard. I've had so many mental crises over software engineering. So I think me allowing myself to be an actor and like to explore who I truly am outside of Silicon Valley, to me, that's kind of been like the bravest thing I've done, because it's like I did coding for 10 years, realized I was like, I actually am pretty good at this, comma, but I don't love it. So I'm going to quit, not because I feel imposter syndrome, but because I think this other thing is calling me. I think kind of has been my mindset. But oh my God, software engineering, Dara, was like hard to get to.
Hard to get to in terms of what, like kind of going through those episodes of imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, totally. One time I had a manager tell me, he gave me like a really bad review. I was like an intern. He gave me a really bad review. And I was like crying. I was like crying in the meeting. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was like, I'll try harder. And he's like, I'll never forget this. He was like, the problem with you, Dara, is you shouldn't have to try. It should just come naturally. And I was like, that was the meanest thing anyone has ever said. But I mean, he wasn't wrong. Like, when I think about my strengths, I'm so strong in areas outside of just like my technical ability. So it's like, why not, you know, fishing reference, why not be a fish swimming with the stream versus up the stream or whatever? But that was so brutal. I remember I was like, "Ah."
How do you think you'll handle like a New York Times review on one of your performances? Will you have the same reaction as you did to this boss, or do you think you'll
Yeah.
be? You think so?
I'm like, yeah, probably. Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. I think like something about software engineering was too close to home versus acting. I'm like, yeah, maybe it wasn't great, but like I really tried, and like the next one will be better. I have like, I don't know, maybe other people would say otherwise. I think my growth mindset with acting is really good in a way that it wasn't there for software engineering, not tech, software engineering specifically. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. We'll have this conversation again. We'll walk through your New York Times review on your performance, and we'll see if they're. Hopefully, they're not tears. I hope it's good tears if they are tears.
Luckily, I have a really intense mom. So I'm like, even like, people are always like, oh my gosh, like, how did you handle the pressure? Or what did, was it like intense? I'm like, bro, I grew up in the Silicon Valley with an Asian mom. No, we're fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like at this point, it's like another day. So
I'm wondering, Dara, just to kind of bring this conversation to full circle, what's the next big scary dream that you haven't said out aloud yet? What's coming up for you?
I spend my days dreaming. Maybe I'm too future thinking, but for me right now, it's like all into acting. So obviously, like the dream that I would hope people would know is just like continue to evolve with this career. I haven't had a big TV film role yet. That would definitely be, I would love to like transition into TV and film more heavily. That would be really amazing. After that, I guess we'll see. I feel like I do have like an entrepreneur spirit in me. So maybe something along those lines, combining tech and Hollywood. But for now, for the near term is like 100% in acting.
Is there a reason why you've picked New York over LA, or is that just because you've landed in Broadway?
It was because my offer for my software engineering job was in New York. Also, it's the only city in the world where, I mean, not world, but at least the United States, where I could do acting and tech. Maybe LA, but New York is really like it's definitely like a mini Silicon Valley. Lots of startups and stuff here.